Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Feel like it's happening again. So now I know what they felt like with this whole ether nonsense, how they just keep coming and no matter how you refute it, they're right back the next day with the same nonsense, not understanding anything. So maybe that's how it was back then.
Maybe.
I don't think I would put them on the same level.
I know, but I'm just saying it's kind of similar, you know? I always say, where the hell were they? What were they sleeping? But it's kind of like similar to what's going on. Not to give them any credit, but they just keep coming back. No matter how Nathan explains things to them, they just keep coming back. Like they were never, destroyed in the first place.
Well, you have to have humility before you can be humiliated, you know?
Good morning.
Nathan.
Mic check.
How you doing, Tent?
Oh, good. It's working. Good. Where's Nathan?
He's here. Yeah, and that sink cleanser, he pissed me off. Pissed me off.
Sink cleanser. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, because, I heard it right from as soon as he started. It was a backhanded compliment. And, I mean, is he not thinking? Like, when do we ever get any evidence to reject?
Good morning, guys.
The problem is, Neil, he thinks that his presupposition is evidence.
That's ridiculous.
Who was that said good morning in Discord?
Good morning. What's that?
You.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh,
Yeah,
Stevie babes.
Welcome.
Hey. I didn't hear the question, but I heard you say Discord.
Yeah, somebody said hi. I just wanted to give them a chance to get a response back.
Tent is fishing early in the morning. Who was that?
No, it was a friendly voice. I just wanted to let them know hello. No, I think it's much like anything else, Neil and John. It's the splinter groups, denominations in churches, splinter groups in flat earth, whatever. It's just going to splinter off, and they're going to have some things we agree on, and then other things they're going to go to presuppositions or other things, and it's going to be this big group of people that have all these different beliefs, and then they all share the one on the flat earth, and everyone's going to mix them all together if they're not careful.
Yeah, they make me laugh too. Like they'll say stupid stuff to me. It don't bother me because it makes me laugh. Like, oh, please, Neil, you won't even understand. All you do is lick Nathan's balls or whatever he says. No, you moron. I'm just not stupid enough to fall for the same trick twice. when I first came to Flat Earth, I bought everything. Sagnac, Mickelson Morley. It wasn't until I came here and learned what the scientific method was, learned the things that QE and Nathan go over here. I'm not going to get duped again. Because you had guys back then saying the same thing. Oh, the globe is pseudoscience. The guy from Celebrate Truth and all of them. And then in the next breath, they're quoting Nicholson Morley and Sagnac and all that other nonsense.
Yeah, their coffee filter isn't as fine as ours.
They're not grounded.
Very good. I like that. Perk up. They need to perk up. Yeah,
they do.
They're going to make the same mistakes.
They need to wake up. Hey, everyone. Hey, Ten. They need to wake up is what they need to do.
Maybe they ought to drink their own coffee then.
Yeah, I do remember a few shows back, me and Brian saying this got to be dealt with, and we got laughed off the show.
Yeah, you were just a regular Joe back then.
Oh, nice one.
Gee, I've been listening to Admin on the show for a while, but I've been listening in, and my God, we're at the point where we have people on our own side telling us, if you just drop your standard of evidence, then you can believe the total and utter super horse crap that we believe, that we have no evidence for whatsoever. That's what we're getting.
Good summary.
Off of these people.
Yeah, good summary. And I don't mind one bit.
Isn't that something?
It was annoying yesterday, but then I've said this all along. I've got to pay attention to my own words. People are people. It's not globers that exercise these rumpusing tactics and delusional behaviour. It's anybody who's got a belief in something that isn't beyond their capabilities of proving. And they'll exhibit that behaviour regardless of who they are. If they're before us, they tend to do it. Let's be honest. We see it from everyone. It's not exclusively globers. So in this instance, when flat earthers come and realise that, hold on, just being a flat earther doesn't mean that you'll just parrot off what I say and agree and nod and tell me how wonderful I am for looking at this wonderful research. Go on, whoever that was. Don't be shy in Discord, whoever that was. Was it just somebody hot micing?
Yeah. Hey, Nathan, yesterday, just as you were closing, Paula came in. It was crazy. She wanted to add on to what these guys were talking about. But as soon as you closed, she popped in G+.
No, I let her in considerably earlier than that, actually, Neil. So I was aware that she came, so I have to let her in. But just always the way when I'm calling people the C word and the F word and, getting very angry, because it does piss me off, I've got to be honest. When people just say that you disregard evidence, you're like, that is the fundamental premise. That's my integrity right there. That's what he's talking about.
Exactly.
So you're like, oh, why would you find it offensive? It just makes your blood boil. Maybe that was his intention. That's why he got labelled a W word and told precisely what a W word means. But nevertheless, the point is that that's just people. And the fact that they'll come here and meet and not necessarily get past the same standards as they're used to from fellow flat earthers, suddenly they're meeting a roadblock that they can't get past. They'll get annoyed. And they'll disseminate in the same way our opponents in that term, globe earthers, in other words, or anti-flat earthers and these terms, would also do. Suddenly they want to disseminate into ruining your credibility. Basically, personal attacks. All right, well, it's just because you don't accept evidence. Evidence means proof. We didn't actually get that far yesterday. It got into 4.5 hours, and I'm like, this is enough now. But we never actually managed to define it. The guy said it was something that alludes to something else, or I can't remember exactly his words. He was right. He caught me out.
I remember it.
Go on.
It is a probabilistic probabilistic
inference or something like that. His definition of evidence was poor, basically. But to evidence something is to prove something. When they say a case got thrown out because of lack of evidence, or the lack of stuff to prove the case. Yeah?
Yep. Can I read something real quick? I had it on since yesterday. Evidence, the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid.
Right. Is there a synonym
But they don't
underneath
have
it?
that.
And underneath it, there's usually synonyms. Can you see any?
Okay. But here, okay, that it has been populated with previous. Oh, this study finds little evidence of overt
not further
discrimination.
Neil, not further definition. You know what synonym means?
I'm just reading everything. Yeah, I can't
Don't
find
just read
anything.
everything.
No.
Do you know what synonym means?
Yes, I know, but there is none. There's no other word. There's just other definitions.
Okay. Fair enough.
Nothing. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know what this is.
isn't evidence when logic and reason are applied proof?
Yes, precisely.
That's all it is. But probabilistic cause is what he called it.
Probabilistic
yesterday.
means correlation.
Right. And cause, he's describing like he's trying to get science in there somehow, I guess. I
It's
don't
married
know.
bachelor. QE did go over that. It's like these are married bachelors. You can't have probabilistic, i.e. correlation, and cause. That's empirical. The two don't sit against each other. They can't be in the same sentence. It's just probabilistic. Well, it probably is this. So by that standard, it could be something completely different. Oh yeah, but it's probably this. And also next to that, cause. No, cause is the thing that causes it. Not probably might be causing it, but something else also might be causing it also. Therefore, cause. Those two things aren't conducive with one another.
But don't we face that all the time with mathematical presuppositions?
Yeah, that was what you put in there, which was excellent when I was listening back. I didn't edit it into a video as yet. I was just looking for it to familiarise myself with the material if it might turn into a video. But yeah, you made that point. Like, essentially what you're saying with probabilistic cause is begging the question.
Yeah, that's all it is, look, I can graph this information and I'm asserting a cause for this, accept it.
Also known
That's
as an
all it
alternative hypothesis, though. So it's akin to mistaking a hypothesis for an explanation. So if A, then B is, if you want to call it that in these horrible terms, probabilistic cause, it's probably A. Well, no, because it's going to be paralleled with a null. But it's probably A at this stage. You know, the way you'd actually phrase it, just for completeness, is it's your assumed cause of the effect. I assume that A will cause B, or more accurately, I suppose that A will cause B. But if you then rearrange that from I suppose A will cause B and turn it into A probably causes B, and then turn that into A causes B. Those are the steps that they've taken from a hypothesis without a null and turned it into an explanation. What I think might cause it, or probably causes it, does cause it, is causal.
Okay, proof, confirmation, verification, corroboration. I found them, so that's just what it says as synonyms.
It sounds like it's everything prior to experimentation.
Well, that's what hypothesis is if you include a null. If A, then B, or if A, not B. Well, that's a full formulated hypothesis. That's all you've got. But if you just take half of it, the alternative, as I said a second ago, you've got if A, then B. But you can take that as if A, well, then B. You go, oh yeah, if A, then B.
Right.
Probabilistic cause.
It's affirming the consequence.
Precisely.
Right.
I was just about to say, yes, you took the, yes, that's an affirming the consequent.
Learn that here.
Right. So they've taken that first part, the hypothesis, after observing, and they've relabeled it probabilistic.
Yeah. Well,
Because there's no experimentation.
Well, although they'd never detail the logical structure that they're claiming to use, they'd claim its modus ponens. If A, then B, A, therefore B. But when you have that as the supposition in logic, you've got to show that A, therefore B. Once you've shown it, you can apply the logic of modus ponens. But what they actually do is, if P then Q, Q therefore P, but John just pointed out. But if you phrase it and frame it like modus ponens, you'll catch out most people most of the time, because your supposition becomes an explanation. Well, I suppose A causes B. Well, probably causes B. Well, causes B. A causes B. There you go, that's my explanation. A causes B.
There you have it.
Right. That's my whole point. My whole point is rather than going through the whole scientific method until you get the actual cause, and there's no other reason for that cause but the one you land on as being the only reason, they stop and say probabilistic. So because they haven't done the whole thing, they're cheating it.
Well, you know why that happened, right? You know why Sin Cleanser was acting that way,
Before
right?
we get
Because
into that,
he's a proponent for that.
okay, before we get into these reasons, again, for completeness, when you say you don't follow the method of the scientific methodology actually in science, well, yes, you're right, 10th. Well, again, what would you actually do? Rather than, well, A could cause B, A probably causes B, A does cause B, you know, just in those steps of verbalization. What you'd actually do is vary A and see if it causes B. Now, when you're doing that, you're actually performing a process, in long-winded terms, of hypothesis actualization, otherwise known as an experiment. An experiment is merely you varying the thing that you suppose causes the effect you're studying. And when you vary it, it causes it. Alternative hypothesis confirmed. You also, parallel with that hypothesis, have a null, if A, not B. Therefore, when you follow the process and vary A, if it doesn't cause B, your supposition was incorrect, you still validate, prove the null. Your statement, logically speaking, if A, not B, is proven true. You varied A, B didn't happen, so if A, not B, that's a true statement. You validated it, though, by varying it and proving it didn't happen. So that methodology, just for completeness, is what you'd actually do to take something that you suppose, assume, moving on to presuppose, you vary it, manipulate it, see if it causes it. That's science, as opposed to presupposition and affirming the consequence.
Right. But on that point and vein of thought, you can't science everything because you can't vary what you think is causing it. So it just falls outside of the scientific method. And what they want to do is take all the things that fall outside of the scientific method, because they can't vary the very thing they think is causing it, and say probabilistic. So they're getting lazy on this.
Correct. And they want to play with magnets and just claim stuff.
Or the correlating stuff.
Go
on. No, who's that? Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
No, you go, Nathan. I'll say that after one.
I was just going to say they're correlating things, and correlation is not causation. So when you correlate a magnetic field with what you presuppose is the existence of non-existent counter space, and then you say that you can see it in the gaps of the magnetic field light through a membrane of blood that you've created to see this shit happen, you can then have an audience member going, wow, that's so amazing. You gotta razzle 'em, dazzle 'em, right? And that's all that's happening. You're being duped. You've got a magician performing a magic trick that's based on a presupposition. And that's all that's happening. Go ahead, Brian.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, they start off with dishonesty. That's what they're starting with. They're not being honest about what they're doing. What they're doing is they're taking something and deciding that something else is causing something without having any actual observed phenomenon to prove this. And they're not being honest with themselves. They're not calling it speculation. They start by saying it's a possible, and bit by bit it becomes a definite. You know, and then that's why then they get to the point where they meet people like us, and we say, "Show us this thing, this ether. Show us this. You know, define it. What is it?" And they can't do it. You know, it's magnetism, it's light, it's everything, it's anything. You know, it's counter space. You know, it's non-Euclidean, which means what's Euclidean? What is it? It's a definition of three-dimensional space.
Non-Cartesian. Sorry, I got that wrong yesterday too.
Sorry, non-Cartesian. Sorry, non-Cartesian. Yeah, what's Cartesian? It's a coordinate system for 3D space, 2 and 3D space. You know, so it's like it's everything and it's nothing. You know, but it starts off with dishonesty. You have to first tell yourself and be okay with it within yourself with pumping out this as a definite. You know, that's where they go to. You know, it's not a definite. It's not anything. It's a nothing.
No, I think Nathan's right. They sit there and they watch Ken Wheeler videos, and they're wooed by his magic.
But this is the problem.
that's-
Go on, Brian.
Sorry, just before. Yeah, this is the problem. If you watch the Bob and them talking to Ken Wheeler recently, I only watched maybe 20 minutes, half an hour of it. I couldn't watch it all. He actually was correcting them on a load of things. And dielectric acceleration, this thing they're pumping out, that's just an idea that Bob and them have. They stick to the idea to them. This is dielectric acceleration, blah, 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 blah. This is our idea. What do you think, Ken? That's what he said. That's what they said to him. And all he said after that, well, gravity doesn't exist. But he didn't say they were correct. He didn't know about this dielectric acceleration. That's their claim that they made up. It's their made-up nonsense. They're making it up. Even Ken Wheeler's not saying it. Sorry. Go on.
No, it's okay. I want to pose a question to you and the panel. What's the end purpose of them making these things up? What do they need ether for, and what's it going to solve? Why do they fight for it so much?
Space. They want their space. They want their gravity.
Well, they don't believe in gravity, I thought.
I don't know, and I don't know why the point of the question. Why do we want to divine their motivation exactly, 10th?
No, I want to know why they're now hooking up with, this first time I heard it, that they're talking to Ken Wheeler. I mean, then I watched the video that someone posted yesterday, and I'm hearing Dearth say that Bob proved 15-degree drift of the ether. And I turned it off at that point. I'm just like, what is going on here? What's the purpose? I want to know the purpose. Why are they fighting for this?
So now it's going to be thank you, Bob, again? Oh, my God.
I mean, literally said they went to a higher altitude and realized it wasn't the Earth moving that the 15 degrees showed, but it was the ether. So what Dirk said on the video, it's like, okay, then how come you guys have such a hard time convincing us?
Natural phenomena. There's a cause and effect relationship being asserted by a man-made gizmo that came first and didn't meet their predictive standards that they ascribed to it outside of the scientific method. And when it didn't meet their predicted standards that they ascribed to it, they changed their story and ascribed, precisely as history has already done for us with previous examples, their nonsense to a new non-phenomena that we cannot observe. Now, the scientific method would dictate that the step that you would take first before creating a man-made gizmo like a gyroscope of any description is to observe the phenomena that you're going to be studying. Step 1 of the scientific method, observe natural phenomena. That becomes half of your hypothesis. If you can identify a phenomena that has actually occurred, then that is half of a hypothesis. The hypothesis consisting of your supposed cause of the effect as your independent variable, that which you will vary and manipulate to hopefully cause the effect that you observed in nature, your dependent variable. Once you have those two constituent parts, your supposed cause and the effect you're studying, that is a hypothesis. If A, then B. If independent variable, that which I suppose causes the effect, then dependent variable, the effect I'm studying in nature. You also have a null to offer empiricism. If A, your independent variable, that which you suppose causes the effect, then not B. The effect does not happen when you vary your supposed cause. That's a null. Either way, at the end of hypothesis actualization, otherwise known as an experiment, you will vary your supposed cause and see if it causes the effect. If it does, you validate your alternative hypothesis. If A, then B, you validated the cause of the effect. If it does not cause the effect, you validate your null. If A, not B, tick next to that. You validated that it didn't cause it, as you supposed. So there's an empirical method for establishing cause of natural phenomena we observe. The method does not start with a man-made device and a presupposition of something that you've never observed. The only way to be a dependent variable, that would be a phenomenon, is to be an observed phenomenon, i.e. you've got to see it actually happening, and then you've got to try and induce it happening by varying a supposed cause of it. You don't send a gadget up into the sky and just create a cause for a man-made gizmo. Why, you might ask? Oh, they've still got the question, why did it drift? Why did what do what? This man-made device did something, did it? That's fascinating. Here, in non-La La Land reality, we study the physical and natural world. That's what I thought, incorrectly, I supposed wrongly, was the reason we're all here. Oh, we've suddenly realised what the nature of our reality is and how much we were duped about it. Therefore, as a natural progression, a methodology that offers empiricism in that specifically should be of deep interest to anybody who's interested in flat Earth. Because to me, wrong. Totally wrong. That's what it represents for me. An excitement about the nature of the world, and a method that we knew all along about because we were taught it in school, that's offered for that very subject. Empiricism in the physical and natural world that we experience. So what have we actually got? People pulling the same tricks on the globe side. Dun, 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 dun. You got Cavendish. A man-made gizmo claimed to be a phenomena when it isn't. There isn't a naturally occurring phenomena of mass attracting mass, so they stick some balls in a shed on a torsion bar and say that that's a phenomena, and then try and explain this man-made gizmo and what it's doing. And on the flat Earth side, God, can't believe I'm having to say it, dun, 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 dun. We've got people with gadgets, gyroscopes, claiming ether, something that's never experienced, not a phenomena that's ever been detailed to be happening, and it's ascribed to the cause of gyroscopic drift in a man-made gizmo. Both pseudoscience, neither have applied the actual empirical method of science, but all of these pretender clowns say science and experiment all the bloody time. For this crap's labelled experiment. It's an outrage. So get with it if you're a flat earther and you're actually interested in the world you live in. You better get with what science is, because you were taught it at school and then very quickly deceived thereafter about what it was used for when making up stories and religions and paradigms, as opposed to empirically validated causes of effects you observed in nature, validated by hypothesis actualization, otherwise known as the scientific method. I'm done.
So they skipped the first step, and that's why they wind up in these situations. I got it.
Well, it's
Can I go on, John?
I was just going to say it's not that hard though. Like when he was saying, that we like reject all claims and stuff. I was like, well, I can make a claim that nobody's going to reject. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. You're not going to find anybody on this panel that's just going to reject that because it's demonstrable,
Careful. No, careful. What you've just given is a valid alternative hypothesis. Do you want to say it again?
Water boils at sea level at 100 degrees Celsius.
So water boils, that's a dependent variable. 100 degrees Celsius, that's the application of heat at a specific gauge that we ascribe to it with our words. Celsius or Fahrenheit, it makes no difference, it's merely a scale. But aside from that scale, you also included a control. Excellent work, by the way. That would be at sea level. Now, you could have also defined it in terms of the barometric pressure at that particular point, but you've defined it adequately to have independent variable, dependent variable, and even a control thrown in for good measure. You don't need it. It's automatically assumed that anything else that could influence the test will be held constant, aka a constant variable. You're calling it sea level. Perfect. But that is yet to be validated, right? Because you can also have the mirror image of that, which is water will not boil at 100 degrees C at sea level. That's if A, not B. If heat, not boiling water. That's a null. So far, when you gave it, I'm nearly there. When you gave it in the fashion that you did, you only offered it up as a hypothesis. So just because right at the beginning of this discussion, I was like, don't take the hypothesis and turn it into... Now, we all know water boils at 100 degrees, but just let's forget that for a second, because in literal terms, the way you phrased it, you offered an alternative hypothesis yet to be validated. Therefore, I'm just going to ask you this next question. I am nearly done, I promise. I won't interrupt you again. To validate or actualize your alternative hypothesis, what would you do, John?
You would... I guess you could go to the sea level go to the sea and boil a pot of water and check what temperature it starts boiling at.
See if it does boil. Right, there's your assumption getting the better of you. Right, 99% correct. Yes, I don't want to be pedantic. You take your water in a pot down to sea level and you apply 100 degrees C to it. That was your independent variable of 100 degrees C application of heat to the water. And does it or does it not, because we're all now under the assumption we've just done this, haven't we? We've all just gone down to the beach, got to sea level, and taken a Bunsen burner and a pot of water with us. We're just going to assume we've all done that, right? And did it, John, when you applied your supposed cause of heat at 100 degrees at sea level to the water, did you observe the effect when you varied that which you supposed caused it?
Yeah, I think everybody's boiled a pot of water.
Right, but in order to validate it scientifically, you actually applied 100 degrees of temperature to the water and witnessed the effect occurring, correct?
Yeah. I've been to the beach and cooked before, yeah.
But if you... I know, but what I'm saying is, upon doing that which you supposed, if A, that's application of 100 degrees C, then B, boiling water will occur, just to rearrange what you stated. I'm not going to give it verbatim because it was the other way around. But you've got a formulation of a hypothesis, and if you go to the beach and apply your supposed cause of the effect you observed in nature, the boiling water that you want to know what causes it, then you just have to actualise that which you supposed. Boil the water by applying heat to it.
Damn it, Nathan. I was just about to say that there is nobody going to argue with that. You almost turned it into an argument.
I'll try a different way. Because I am not trying to send it into... Hello?
What Nathan was trying to say...
I'm nearly done. We're nearly there. Okay. I will take what you said and rearrange it and make a claim of my own. Upon seeing a hot spring, a load of water boiling, I went, I wonder what causes that, John. Out hiking, suddenly there's boiling water. I wonder what causes that. Yeah. So I supposed that at sea level, because that was where I saw it, there or thereabouts, that acid content causes the water to boil. My supposition being, if A, acid content, at sea level, 100 degrees, ignored, not including heat, just acid content, if acid content, then boiling water. I've also got a null. If acid content, not boiling water. So, for me to validate my supposed cause of why water boils, an effect we observe in nature, I would merely apply acid to water and see if it boils.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say wasn't exactly about that. I was just saying that there are standards that we do accept, and some claims are accepted. Like the idea that we're rejecting things out of hand is not true.
Yeah, that was my outrage for the most part yesterday, because the guy wouldn't let it go.
What you do then, you could test it by lowering the temperature then, couldn't you, at 50 degrees, and if it didn't boil, then you proved a point then, haven't you? That
It's the temperature of the water. When the water reaches that temperature, it will be boiling.
At sea level.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
At 100 degrees at sea level, water boils. And then what you'd say, well, we'll say I did it at 50, it doesn't boil.
Yeah, that's a constant.
Yeah.
So in terms of how much heat, that's a constant that you would hold. Sea level the
We
same.
need to go through this with the bloody Newton's apple. What should have happened and go through it stage. I enjoyed that. Should go through that with this bloody apple dropping off a tree.
We've got time. We can do that now. But Brian's wanting to say something.
No, go
Okay,
ahead,
no
don't matter.
Well, what's the observed phenomena? An apple falling from a tree? Yes, it is.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Okay. You realise you've got half a hypothesis already then. So someone's at my door. I'll be back in 10
It's
seconds.
not
Hold
even
on.
science.
He had to step away. Someone's at his door. Just give him a chance.
Brian, what were you going to say, Brian? Now that Nathan stepped away.
Yeah, I was just going to lay out the whole thing with ether just quickly before Nathan comes back. Ether was just a theory people had, and then someone showed that light was happening due to ether in the air or some nonsense like that. Then a vacuum chamber turned up to go the air away, and there was still light. So then they came up with, ether is there anyway, whether there's air or not. And then someone used interferometry, Michelson-Gale or Michelson-Morley, whichever, and the ether was spinning around us, right? Honeywell make the ring laser gyros that uses interferometry. The laser goes one way and the other way. One direction is slightly longer, so there's a phase difference, and there's actually stated as a frequency difference due to the one laser that happens with the laser that's going a slightly longer distance. So it has absolutely nothing to do with any ether nonsense.